Every year, Porsche sells over 300,000 cars. Each one costs more than most people earn in a year. It's the ultimate status symbol, the dream car, the badge that tells the world you've made it. But behind that badge is a secret most Porsche owners will never know, because the man who created Porsche was a member of the Nazi Party, an honorary general of the SS, a personal friend of Adolf Hitler, and a man who built his empire using slave labor from concentration camps. But that's not even the darkest part. Porsche had a Jewish co-founder, a man who helped build the company from nothing. And when Hitler rose to power, they didn't just abandon him, they stole everything he had. This is the disturbing true story of Porsche. The story they never tell you at the dealership. The year is 1875. In a small town called Mattersdorf in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, a boy named Ferdinand Porsche is born into the family of a tinsmith. There is no wealth here, no connections, no grand future waiting. Just a small workshop and a father who expected his son to follow in his footsteps. But young Ferdinand was different. While other boys played outside, he was obsessed with one thing: electricity. By 13, he had wired his family's entire home with electric light. They became the first household in town to have it, not because they were rich, but because their teenage son was a genius who couldn't stop tinkering. Ferdinand never completed a formal engineering degree. He attended night classes at a polytechnic while working in his father's shop by day. Everything he knew about engineering, he taught himself through obsession and relentless experimentation. Yet, by his early 20s, he was building things that stunned the engineering world. In 1898, he designed one of the world's first electric cars, the Lohner Porsche. Then he went further. He built the world's first hybrid vehicle, a car powered by both electric motors and a petrol engine. In 1898, more than 100 years before Toyota made hybrids popular, he moved to Daimler, rose through the ranks, designed the legendary Mercedes SS and SGSG racing cars, won races across Europe, became one of the most respected automotive minds on the continent. Then, in 1931, Ferdinand Porsche did what he'd always dreamed of. He opened his own engineering company in Stuttgart, but he didn't do it alone. There were three founders. Ferdinand Porsche put up 80%. His son-in-law, Anton Piech, contributed 10%. And the third founder, who put in the remaining 10% and served as managing director, was a businessman and racing driver named Adolf Rosenberger. Rosenberger was Jewish, passionate about cars. He had raced Mercedes throughout the 1920s, and when the young company ran dangerously low on cash, it was Rosenberger who personally injected 80,000 Reichsmarks to keep Porsche alive. Without Adolf Rosenberger, there would be no Porsche. That is not an exaggeration. It is historical fact. In 1933, Adolf Hitler came to power, and everything changed. Hitler wanted every German family to own a car, a cheap, reliable people's car, a Volkswagen. And the man he chose to design it was Ferdinand Porsche. But this wasn't just business. This was a relationship built on mutual admiration. Porsche didn't simply accept a contract. He embraced the regime fully. He joined the Nazi Party, accepted the rank of honorary SS general. An Oberfuhrer, gave up his Czech citizenship because Hitler encouraged him to. Used SS members as security at his factory. The Nazis called him the Great German Engineer. And Porsche wore that title with enormous pride. And Adolf Rosenberger, his Jewish co-founder, the man whose money had saved the company from collapse? In 1935, Rosenberger was arrested by the Gestapo, charged with so-called racial crimes, the Nazi term for a Jewish man having a relationship with a non-Jewish woman. He was beaten, humiliated, thrown into a concentration camp near Heidelberg. Through his lawyer, Rosenberger desperately begged Ferdinand Porsche to use his powerful Nazi connections to help save his life. Porsche did nothing. He was at the Spanish Grand Prix. Rosenberger was eventually released, not because of Porsche, but because a former colleague personally bribed the Gestapo. He was forced to flee Germany forever. He would never return as a free man. And his 10% stake in the company he helped create, Porsche and Piëch seized it under Aryanisation, the Nazi policy designed to strip Jewish citizens of their businesses and property. They paid a fraction of its worth. The co-founder of Porsche was erased from history, his name scrubbed from the company records, his contributions buried as if he had never existed. When World War II erupted, Ferdinand Porsche became one of Hitler's most valuable and trusted engineers. The massive Volkswagen factory was converted into a weapons plant. It produced military vehicles, landmines, and components for the V-1 flying bomb, the weapon that terrorized London from the skies. The workforce? Slave laborers, tens of thousands of men, women, and children dragged from concentration camps across Eastern Europe. By the end of the war, roughly 70% of Volkswagen's entire workforce were forced laborers. The factory operated 4 concentration camps and 8 forced labor camps directly on its own grounds. A car factory with concentration camps inside it. Let that sink in. Porsche's own Stuttgart factory also used hundreds of forced laborers during the war. The company itself has since acknowledged this dark chapter of its history. Ferdinand also served as chairman of Hitler's tank commission. He personally designed the Panzer VIII Mors, the heaviest tank ever built. He wasn't a passive bystander, he was deeply embedded in the beating heart of the Nazi war machine. When the war ended, Porsche was arrested by French authorities. He spent 22 months in prison, but was never formally convicted. His detention was partly driven by French car companies fighting over access to his engineering genius. Released in 1947, his family wasted no time rebuilding the empire. His son Ferry had been working quietly through the chaos in an old sawmill in rural Austria. Using nothing but spare Volkswagen parts, he built something the world didn't expect. A small, elegant, rear-engined sports car. The Porsche 356, the very first car to carry the Porsche name. Beautiful, fast. And the wealthy loved it. Over 17 years, more than 78,000 were sold. It laid the foundation for every Porsche that followed, including the legendary 911. The dynasty was reborn from the ashes. Ferdinand visited the Volkswagen factory one last time in November 1950. Weeks later, he suffered a devastating stroke. He never recovered. On January 30th, 1951, the tinsmith's son from Matthersdorf died at 75, but his family's empire was only just beginning. And Adolf Rosenberger? After the war, he returned to Germany seeking justice. He sued through a retribution tribunal. The case settled in 1950 for just 50,000 Deutschmarks and a choice between a Volkswagen Beetle or a Porsche 356. He chose the Beetle. Rosenberger moved to Los Angeles, changed his name to Alan Robert, and died quietly in 1967 at 67 years old. Forgotten by the world, while the family that had stolen his legacy became one of the wealthiest dynasties on Earth. If this story shook you, hit subscribe right now. We uncover the hidden truths behind the world's biggest brands every single week. Turn on notifications so you never miss one. Today, the Porsche Piëch family controls one of the largest automotive empires in human history. Porsche, Volkswagen, Audi, Lamborghini, Bentley, Bugatti. All of it traces back to Ferdinand Porsche, a genius who joined the SS, profited from slave labor, abandoned his Jewish co-founder to the Gestapo, and whose family erased that man from history for decades. The cars are beautiful, the engineering is extraordinary, but the foundation they were built on is something Porsche would rather you never knew. Some legacies shine brightest when you don't look too closely.